What's up, everyone? I'm Dark Moocher, kicking off your week with another Moocher's Monday, a series where we kind of explore life outside of the Star Wars movies, how we live Star Wars, how we consume it, and we find it in places beyond in front of our TVs or movie theaters. And one of the major ways I find it is at Disneyland. Okay. And I know sometimes this is not a very hot topic for a lot of people because when we bring Disneyland and Batuu meaning Galaxy's Edge and Disneyland areas, our chat kinds of shuts down and doesn't really get involved just because it is kind of a niche thing to visit frequently, and I'm very aware of that. So, but I'm gonna kind of like explore it a little bit here, but not in details like you guys think. I'm not gonna gush over merchandise and stuff and like rumor mills and stuff like that. I just want to um kind of go along the immersion part of it and how well it is. And if you ever get a chance to explore this side of Star Wars fandom, I highly recommend it. Even if you're local, you live local in where the parks are in Florida or California. If you get a chance to vacation out on one of the parks, set a day aside for Star Wars because you'll love it. Now, I do want to explore kind of alternates, like as far as what it does offer, and then what it was, I guess, what a lot of people wish it was. But again, maybe talking through this, we could kind of like, okay, it makes sense why Batuu is a created land, a created world for Star Wars, rather than bringing like Tatooine to Disneyland. Like, which it's as cool as that sounds, okay? Having going to Tatooine and going to Mos Eisley and the cantina, right? And then having the cantina band and having like animatronics all over. That sounds amazing. Trust me, I would be in, head over heels, even if it was just that. But I kind of appreciate more what they did as far as creating a land and a planet called Batuu, strictly for lore aspects, how it can intertwine in Star Wars lore, and then how Disneyland and Disney wanted you to be part of this Star Wars story. And again, it is canon, okay? But so far, it doesn't interrupt canon. So you could ignore it completely and just go along and do your Star Wars thing. And besides, like I said, it's comic books and there is novels that kind of where the guys say, advertisement for the parks, which I'll have to get into that a little bit, but there is that stuff. But again, it's seamlessly, and if you don't even know or kind of explore the Disneyland parks in that way, you just kind of read it as, okay, this is part of it. It's all part of it. Now, immersion, right? Going in and having your own park and your own experience is what the purpose of this land is. Yeah, it's part of Disneyland, it's part of thrill rides, but again, for those of you who have never been, when you go to that side of Disneyland parks, you're not greeted with Mickey Mouse. You don't hear Disneyland. None of the employees or the cast members even talk about Disneyland. When you ask them where Tomorrowland is or whatever, or Space Mountain, they are like confused, and then they say, "Oh, that must be off world." So they're very, or they try. A lot of them try to bring this whole immersion thing for your personal experience. Now, you could dress up. You could, to a point, they sell cosplay stuff there. Where I would say, if you don't visit the park enough, like if you visit the park and you have passes 2 or 3 times a year, then that stuff is cool, right? You have the costumes and stuff, and you can kind of dress your own, things and do like the events that they have. It helps you, you know. But if you're out of town or you only visit Disneyland once 2, 3 years, it might go right over your head, or on purpose too. You're like, you know what? I don't have time. I just want to kind of do this thing, experience it, and move on, which is fine, right? But like I said, I would kind of recommend getting yourself and setting a day aside and getting yourself immersed in the Star Wars world. Get on the app and do the little mini games that they have, all the little Easter eggs throughout the whole land and all that stuff. They also have the Bounty Hunter game coming to that app. where you could go and I guess scan certain symbols and get credits, and then the credits are used in the app to buy other you know in-game things. But it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything real world yet, which I'm hoping that they do. Right? Imagine like if you were um, exploring symbols and you're scanning things and you're getting credits and you're doing these missions and you're spending your day in that park and you're eating there and you're conversing and you're just kind of being part of Disneyland. I think that whole app and credits thing should accumulate to something, a store where you could spend it on. And it doesn't have to be big stuff. It could be a percentage off. It could be like a trinket only that for app members get, right? That would be awesome. And have this little collection of stuff that you've done in the parks and you've taken home. That would be an amazing step forward for that immersion, right? And it gets you coming back for more. It's like achievements, right? Like you're like, okay, I went here. Now I'm going to explore this side of the park and I'm going to do these things, you know. And again, I get it. It could be that could be a very local pass holder way of thinking, because again, I am a pass holder and I'm somewhat local to the California Disneyland, so I kind of think these ways. If I was out of town and I didn't have that access, you know, to the parks as much, I would probably be thinking completely different. And again, all okay. I just kind of wish there was a way of bringing that home to you. So, you know, it would be kind of cool too for that app to work if you were out of town, uh, to continue the journey after you left Disneyland. You guys visited your whole family, and then throughout the app, you can explore things, even if it's like Disney Plus shows, right? Would be cool to like if you see a Mandalorian episode and you see a symbol on there, you could pause it, scan it into your app, and kind of this whole interaction thing. Again, I just that's the way I think. Um, trying to go overboard on things and how we live Star Wars beyond movies and whatnot. Um, but having your own story going forward and like for example, Scott Solo and the guys on the podcast and stuff, we've talked about real nerdy stuff, creating our own bios and dressing the part and going to the parks and cosplaying or role playing that part, right? Um, how fun is that? Like to think about how we take Star Wars to another level and having a place to go. Yes, it's one planet, and but it'd be fun. We're big kids like that. Um, I'm not embarrassed to do it, because what do we do all day? We watch movies of people dressing up and playing characters, and we on every level in every movie. So if we do that in real life, I mean, what's the difference, right? We're just not getting paid to do it, right? Um, so it blurs for me. It does anyway. Anyway, that's how I justify being that nerdy outside. So, um, there was talks about Disneyland doing the Star Wars land, but not the way it is. It was talks of like I think the initial um, plan was to make it a Tatooine, make it a familiar sight. Darth Vader walking around, stormtroopers walking around, and living a Star Wars moment in that time, a frozen piece of history. Not necessarily the immersion part, but a Star Wars themed part of it. Again, sounds really cool. But I mean that's all great. But again, I mean, really think about it. As cool as that would be, how many times are you going to want to go back to it? It's kind of like a business plan. To have something different and create from the ground up makes more sense to me. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments, if I'm wrong, or if you would have liked more of a movie still walking into a set of Star Wars as it was in the films and explore that, but nothing that could be changed, right? Just a static land. You know, I like where it grows. It could grow. It's an ever evolving piece of land and entertainment that you could continuously be a part of, and they're proving it. Not only as the app is improving and the little mini games and stuff that get you more immersed in it. That Disney, they are doing kind of a 180 on their stance of the time frame where Batuu takes place, which is in between episodes 8 and 9, I think it was. And it's not as popular, right, as it should have been, or what they were expecting it to be. They were expecting it to be a 7, 8, 9 with new characters and Ray and Kylo, and it's just supposed to be this world building phenomenon thing, and it just didn't happen, right? So now they're stuck with this land. They're stuck with at least one ride in there that's can never be changed. They cannot change Rise of Resistance over to something else. I mean, without pumping money into it, a lot of money into it and a lot of time into it, which I don't think this current management of Disneyland parks is going to do. I think they don't care. I really don't think they care about the immersion. The pieces that were set in place before, they don't care. They're not even gonna look our way, which is disappointing. So we're gonna have to hope that a new management comes in and takes a hard look at it and a new philosophy on what they've built and try to build on it. Um, but let's say they were to, try more and changing the land over to the Imperial Rebel Alliance or even Mandalorian. Mandalorian, we talked about this. That's probably like the perfect reskin of that land. It could be because we talked about annual things switching over to Empire and Rebel Alliance for a weekend or a month or something. They do it with the Haunted Mansion. They switch it over to Halloween. Just all it is changing the flags over, having the stormtroopers instead of the First Order troopers, and having that, which can work, which would be awesome, which probably be the more direct line Disney will do rather than a permanent reskin. But as much as I love Batuu original, I wouldn't change anything about Batuu itself, but the Star Wars themed in the Batuu, meaning the First Order area and the Resistance area, I would permanently change and switch over to the Mandalorian time frame, which is going to be 30 years before what it is now. It could still have, I mean, what they have, Mandalorian Grogu walking around. They have Boba Fett walking around, Fennec Shan walking around. So they're already trying to get the characters in there. And all they got to do is on the First Order side is change those banners over to Imperial Remnants and add Moff Gideon walking around and done, right? Again, though, that I don't think the merchandise is flying off the shelves in that area. The First Order stuff. I don't. Every time I walk in there, I never see anybody wearing that stuff to the point where it's like, oh, this is something that it's working. I see people walk in there going, that's cool. And then I don't see any kids wearing the stuff. I mean, every once in a while, but not like it is where the lightsabers and Doc Ondor's his shop where holocrons and that's where you can get your Imperial robes and all that stuff. That's flying off the shelves, but the sequel stuff tends to be a lot of pay warmer stuff. So it would be a good time to kind of like really think about it and switch it over to a Mandalorian time frame, which is easy. The merchandise, I mean, if they're always continuing to advance on merchandise, what's the difference of just adding Mandalorian stuff? A lot of people, I've seen this too. It's like, okay, if because I've mentioned this to people too about changing it to Mandalorian. And they were like, okay, well, let's get rid of the Batuu name and call it Navarro. Let's just switch it to Navarro. And I thought about it. I'm like, that could work because the aesthetics are very Navarro as where the the Bounty Hunters Guild was, where the Mandalorian season 1 took place. I mean, it can work, right? But at this point, it's already been 3 years into the lore. It's already been into the comic books and into novels. Why you don't have to switch it that drastic and say, okay, this is a familiar planet. Just keep it as Batuu. Just slowly keep it. I think the time frame is what needs to be changed myself. Rise of Resistance ride would be a very, very hard thing. I mentioned it'd be a very hard thing to reskin. Not impossible. The theme of the ride could stay the same. I say all you got to do is just change the animatronic. Yeah, Marco, that's lots of money and time that they probably won't care about because it is a very, very successful ride. It's just in the time frame a lot of people don't really gravitate to, but we accept it because it's an amazing experience, right? It is putting you into a movie, that ride. But I don't know. I think growing on the idea is perfect. I've always said this where Disney should just double down on what they did. If they gave us a Ray story, give us another Ray. Just keep going with it and flesh it out and make it better. I mean, they don't have to really just kind of like hit a wall and go a different way. I know a lot of people would like that. And I use Disneyland as that example too, because it is a direct correlation. I think Disney and Star Wars is a perfect marriage. I think it was from day one, from 1980, was it 1985, 86 when Star Tours came, or it was actually later than that. I thought that was perfect. I thought George Lucas's IP and Disneyland fit really well, and I trusted them to, you know, handle the Star Wars IP very, very well. I felt like they stumbled out of the gate, went too hard, too fast, and went and came up with a story that everybody was like, not everybody, most people I know. Let's put it, most people I know did not like the sequel story and the storytelling of it. And then there's some people that did, but and so they put all their eggs in one basket. They said, we're going to make a Disneyland of, the sequel era. We're going to go count on these 3 movies. We're going to just have all this merch. And the ball was rolling. And I guess once it was rolling, they had to see it through, which is good. I think now they're starting to backpedal, but backpedal in a smart way, backpedal in the way that we can take Disneyland home with us. That part of it, Star Wars part of it, what the app is perfect. Like this day and age, there's no reason to experience Disneyland only in a Disneyland now, and they can monetize it. They can still make money on it, and we will still buy it to a point, But I think what I see happening, the growth and the potential growth, and what they're trying to bring more immersion through the parks, I think it's going to happen. Eventually it's going to happen. Unfortunately, it might be still, a few years down the line, but it's possible, which is I'm a positive thinker with that, because again, I love the land. I love Disneyland. I'm not necessarily a Disney like cartoon, like Disney fan. I like Disneyland. And I want to be able to go to Disneyland more and just stay in that part of Disneyland and just kind of like get lost, which I do, but only for a few hours, But now we want to take it to different levels, and our technology today with apps is perfect, And again, there are some people that are really against everything I just said, and that's fine too. It's not your cup of tea. You'd rather be in. I'd rather too. I'd rather have a place also to go, and like I said, go into a canteen where the band members are playing, and someone gets shot. You flip a coin to the bartender. It's just something embedded in all of us, that we want to be sitting there as Han Solo is shooting Greedo, and Luke Skywalker getting bullied, and that's awesome too. But I think that only goes so far. Like you can only experience that a couple times without being bored of it in that real setting, because what's going to happen. With at least Batuu, it's still, in my experience, it has been a new experience almost every time. You don't know what characters, especially nowadays, you don't know what characters are coming out and what other effects are going to have when you're walking through, other sound effects going on. You're picking up things all the time, and having that new world and characters intertwined into the movies, into the series, and then hopefully into live action. We will see Batuu in live action. That'll make it even 10 times even better. Now I did mention, like, some of the guys think that Disney has taken full advantage of their own IP. Wonder why they would do that. And they think like a lot of the Batuu and Disney and Disneyland stuff that they put in the books and novels, and even mentioning in the live action, it's an advertisement for the land. I look at it like, for example, let's just say Ronto wraps. Ronto wraps are a delicious snack in Batuu. I recommend everybody getting 1 or 3 when you go. They mention it in the books constantly. This person's eating that, how much it costs, where to get it, what's it made of, all that stuff. And I'm like, well, that's cool, because to me, I put it in canon. I put it in when I go. They're not advertising it to me. I get to eat a Star Wars food, and I just kind of I force myself to get in that kind of immersion. So when I'm reading it, and I understand their point, they're like, it's too much. But maybe they just have to get that point across of what it is. But anyway, when I'm reading it, it takes me back and I want to buy one. So I guess it is working, right? It is a marketing ploy for to get me to go eat one. But I was going to do it anyway. I don't need it to be set on paper 15 times for me to want one. But again, I look at just like using earthly language in Star Wars. They start using earthly language in Star Wars. To me, it's no longer earthly. Now that's Star Wars. You know what I mean? That's the way um why we live Star Wars beyond the movies. We integrate it in our lives so often. So um I have the comic book of the Galaxy's Edge, which is really good. I recommend everybody buying that and reading it, or trying to read it before you go, because as you're walking through the land, you get to put those stories to this wall. Why this blaster mark on this wall is there, and there's a reason why it's there, and that's so cool, right? So when they mention it in the books about what they're the kind of merchandise they're selling in the book that you can buy in real life, it's just another to me it's just another point of immersion. So when I'm walking through the parks, I'm like, there it is, there's all the foods, and now I kind of feel like I'm walking in those same footsteps, of Han Solo walked here and he grabbed these foods, so I'm doing that same thing, right? So a little like a little tongue-in-cheek version of why I don't mind that advertisement in your face all the time, and that's why I say, like, it's more canon than anything, and if Ronto wraps are like Twinkies to us, then you know what I mean? Um, then so be it. Then everybody loves it and everybody likes it. So it's like, okay, why wouldn't they mention it 15 times in an hour? But it's okay. I get it. I'm not as easily annoyed with it as other people are. But yeah, so um I want to see the land expand. I want to see other things being added to it. I know the land is precious and they can't really probably give us more attractions, but I would really, really, really love to walk around the park and see animatronics in the tree shrubs, more things on the app that you can interact with. There's the great I love rocking around and hacking things on the app. That's my favorite thing to do. Making the Millennium Falcon, blow steam, making the X-wing light up and the sirens go off, making the Gong Droid, you know, do his thing, and you do it all in the app while walking. It's fun to know that you're controlling that, right? And I want more of that stuff. I really want to just put myself in there. I want a place where I go, I don't want to leave here. I'm almost there, right? Um, if they had more aliens, just generic aliens rather than main characters, I think that's the point of immersion in a Star Wars world, right? It's great to see Darth Vader walking around. It's great. But there's only so much Darth Vader is going to do and interact in that land, and they still have him in Disneyland, but just not in Batuu because they think the stories aren't intertwined, right? Which is fine, you know. We'll just have to deal with that. Again, make a holiday, make it Imperial month, and it's all Imperial, the whole thing. I think that might be something on the horizon. It'd be awesome. More droids. We're just some more Star Wars in the land, I think that'd be awesome. But again, I know a lot of people are turned off when we talk Disneyland Batuu on our podcast and stuff, and that's why I kind of brought it here to concentrate on it, because it is life outside the movies, and it is a way of immersing yourself in Star Wars. With without the gaming aspects or collecting and stuff like that, you get to go to a physical place and just geek out with most everybody that's there, besides the tourists that are there just to walk around and are still screaming Mickey Mouse. We would like a place, but that just doesn't happen unless you create your own, right? So we're just have to deal with the off-worlders, when you go to Batuu. I know a lot of people are tired of us talking about it because we frequent a lot, and I don't apologize because we like it. We frequent it a lot. We love it. We want to see it grow. We don't want to see it go away. I'd rather have things that are great, great for us to experience rather than sitting home wishing these things were there. Because if you're going to do that, all you're doing is going with into Star Wars, everything Star Wars arms folded. You're going to go in there and be like, oh, Batuu, what's that? I want Tatooine. I'm never going, I'm never experiencing it. And then you never go. And therefore now you're sitting in your living room doing nothing. And if that's the way you want to do it, that's fine. But again, I'd rather like enjoy it, man. Enjoy and kind of go in there and experience what they're setting up for you to do. Experience something brand new. Put yourself in that world. Put yourself in Star Wars world. Forget about Disney. Forget about Mickey Mouse. Just make your own adventure with that. And they're giving you the tools to do it. So why not take advantage of it? You know, and again, I understand if you're not in local areas to frequent those a lot, you know, but put that in your plan, put that in your game plan, set a day. And you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do Disneyland, and but you know, Tuesday, what we're gonna go and we're gonna experience, you know, Star Wars land, even if it's half a day or whatever. And I understand if you don't buy the robes and get into because again, where else are you gonna do that? But other than there, you know, there are some people that can take advantage of it more often. Anyway, um, that's my rant on Disneyland and Batuu and having a physical place to experience Star Wars, which is fantastic. We live in that world, guys, where we they do exist. Um, hopefully, you're not as you know you can get there and experience it and get a Ronto wrap because they are fantastic. Um, until next Monday, when I see you again on Moocher's Monday, but I will see you live this Wednesday, breaking down everything Star Wars news, rumors, theories, and of course the Andor series, which I'm hoping you're enjoying because I am all in on that series. I cannot wait. I mean, we're only like halfway through season 1, right? And I love it. I'm hanging on every word. But anyway, thank you everybody for sticking around and letting me rant on Disneyland a little bit. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on it, what you want out of Disneyland and what you get out of it. Like if you go, what do you experience? Are you a people watcher or do you do the app like I do? Or are you just going, or do you just do it, look at the rides, get a blue milk and leave? But it's just awesome too. Because you probably do that every time you're at Disneyland too, right? You just kind of do the little circle and experience it and leave, and which is perfectly fine. You know, just but knowing that there's something there that we have in this world that exists that is a little sliver of Star Wars is great. Um, just don't go in arms folded. That's my recommendation. Uh, anyway, like, subscribe if you haven't. Tell a friend if you haven't. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone very much. Till next time, may the force be with you.